and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1900A, and today's date is June 22nd, 2019, and the title of the episode is The People Have Spoken. This is what they want from the economy. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we've been talking a lot about the transition, about having two economies where we're going to transition from a central bank economy to a people's economy. And I keep calling it the people's economy because people do not want the central bank economy. They might not know it yet, but when they find out, when they realize what the central bank does and how it doesn't benefit the people, that's when the people will start to rise up. That's when people will start to say, you know something? We need something different. We never asked for this. Actually, we wanted to follow the Constitution. We never wanted a private corporation handling the creation of our currency. And we see it happening around the world. It started with people just voting. People just out there saying, you know something, we want something different. The economy's not working for us. The establishment that was set up by others is not working for us. And we can't survive. There's austerity. We're not making enough money. Taxes are very high. And there's something wrong. And there's inequality. The 1% are getting very, very wealthy. And the bottom, 99%? We're struggling here. And every day gets harder and harder and harder. Why is this? And we see it around the world. We see Australia, Italy, UK, and of course people are voting, bringing in new leaders. But what's very interesting is that here in the United States, the people spoke up because we wanted to get rid of the swamp. We wanted to get rid of those treasonous criminals. And people said, okay, we need a change. Well, it's starting to morph into, we just don't want that, but we want a better life. You're probably asking yourself, what do I mean by this? Something very interesting happened because the mainstream media has been out there telling us how bad tariffs are. The Trump's economic policies are terrible for the people, for corporations. And of course, companies hire people. And when companies are hiring people, they're doing better. And Trump continually says, no, America first, let's make America great again. And he started off with these trade deals that he's been making, bilateral trade agreements with many different countries, get rid of the globalist trade system, and changing the way we thought about the economy. Now remember, when Trump came into office, Obama said, how are you going to bring back jobs? It's going to be impossible. How are you going to make the GDP go over 2%? It's impossible. You need some type of magic wand. We'll be getting to that in just a minute. But first, the people right now, they are speaking out. There's change in the air. Now, what just happened was that 600 U.S. companies, businesses in the United States, they're speaking out. They wrote a letter to Trump on tariffs. Let me just read what this says. Dear Mr. President, on behalf of the undersigned American companies and the millions of workers we employ, we are writing to offer our support to you and your efforts to resolve the trade imbalance between the U.S. and China. For decades, China has been taking advantage of the U.S., and we stand firm with you and your agenda to see that America gets a better deal. Many in the media and those self-interest in China have argued that Americans are bearing the cost of these tariffs. That is simply false. China is bearing the burden of these tariffs. China has had to lower its prices, and they are experiencing fewer exports, lower profits, and lower tax revenue as a result of the tariffs. Additionally, we will see the Chinese economy experience a slower rate of growth and employment in the future. Importantly, over the past year, the tariffs in question have had a zero impact on the price of inflation. And this is after the U.S. levied tariffs on over $250 billion worth of imports from China. This demonstrates that China is actually bearing the cost of tariffs. We support your steadfastness to stand up to large multinationals who have sold out the American worker for low-cost labor from China. This is important for two reasons. First, America needs a strong manufacturing economy for jobs and national security. And second, China is among the world's worst abusers of human rights, as noted by many of the world's leading humanitarian aid groups. We ask that these human rights abuses be a topic of discussion as you tighten the financial grip of China. No longer should America play second fiddle to China. It is important we stand united behind this agenda and put our country over political differences. America's national security and economy are at stake, and we offer this letter as support for your tariffs on China. Now, there are 600 companies that signed this letter around the country. They employ millions and millions of people, and they are speaking out now, letting the president know that America comes first. We want a better economy to make our lives in this country better economically. People have been struggling for a very long time. And it is time, and you can see it happening, where people are waking up. They're realizing there's been problems. Now, this is just the beginning. They're behind Trump with China. And this is the beginning stages of people getting behind Trump with the economy. And they're no longer hiding in the shadows. No, they're no longer just taking it. The next phase to this is moving into the central bank phase, where Trump will continually point the finger at the central bank, bring awareness to what the central bank has done. Now, if China has done this, has hurt American companies, what has the central bank done? Because the central bank is a lot worse than China. And this is just the beginning. The American people are telling the president, the world, what we want. People in other countries are doing this. Now, very interestingly, we know that Trump has been using the deep state central bank weapons against themselves. And he has pushed the GDP numbers, pushed the unemployment numbers, pushed the stock market to all-time new highs and lows before unemployment. And at the time when he was coming into office, Obama said you would need a magic wand. How are you going to bring back manufacturing? It's impossible. How would you ever get a GDP number over 2%? It's impossible. And it was possible because Trump understands the system. I do believe that Obama thought that the Federal Reserve and those players within government would never reveal how this all works, how everything is manipulated, how it's controlled, how the central bank has the ability to make the economy statistically look any way you want. But guess what? Trump figured it out. He had help. There were many people working on this. And he found the magic wand. How it all works. And Don Jr. tweeted out the following. He said, well, abracadabra, buddy. I guess there is a magic wand for that. At Real Donald Trump has it and is using it for all Americans as promised. It just takes a real leader, one with experience and guts. And it's true. Remember, the old regime was trying to get us used to something completely different. We won't have manufacturing. Unemployment is just the way it is. GDP numbers will never get higher than 2%. Get used to it. Well, we're seeing that wasn't true. Now remember, I've always said this in the past. Everything the deep state, the central bank tells you, it is always the opposite. Because they're trying to shape a certain narrative, an economic narrative, a public narrative, and they use the mainstream media to do this. But we can see that America right now, they're waking up. They're realizing it's time for a change. People in the UK are waking up. They realize it's time for a change. People in Italy are waking up. They realize it's time for a change. People in Australia are waking up. They realize it's time for a change. People in France are waking up. They're realizing it's time for a change. The people are now speaking up. The people are taking back the power. And they're going to push the people's agenda to remove everything the globalists, everything the central bank has done. It has begun, but we have a long way to go. And there's going to be bumps in the road. And I believe this is why Trump has told us to buckle up. But in the end, we're going to see something completely different. And what we're going to see is going to better each and every one of us. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.